This is The Space Shot, Episode 4 for May 18th, 2017. Apollo 10 and the Smiling Buddha. Hey everyone, John here again, and I've got two pieces of history I'm going to cover today. First off, Apollo 10 launched 48 years ago on this day in 1969. The mission objectives for Apollo 10, according to NASA, were to demonstrate crew, space vehicle, and mission support facilities performance during a piloted lunar mission with the command service modules and lunar module, and also to evaluate lunar module performance in the cislunar and lunar environment. The Apollo 10 crew was one of only two Apollo missions to have an all-veteran astronaut crew. Thomas Stafford, the commander, had flown in 2 Gemini missions. John Young, the command module pilot, flew on 2 Gemini missions as well. And Gene Cernan, who flew on 1 Gemini mission with Thomas Stafford, was the lunar module pilot. Apollo 10 was also one of the only Apollo missions that had the command module, named Charlie Brown, and the lunar module named Snoopy, named after something whimsical instead of the more serious names that other Apollo missions took. Apollo 10 launched from Kennedy Space Center Launch Complex 39B, the first and only Saturn V to launch from Pad 39B. Every other Apollo mission launched from Pad 39A, which is now leased by SpaceX for both Falcon 9 and eventually Falcon Heavy launches. After a flawless launch and roughly 2.5 hours in space, a 343-second engine burn would send Apollo 10 to the moon. The translunar injection put Charlie Brown, Snoopy, and the 3 astronauts on a trajectory that would get them into a lunar orbit. Just over 73 hours after leaving Earth, Apollo 10 entered lunar orbit. Over the next week, I'll be talking about Apollo 10 in more detail, specifically what the crew did en route to the moon, and what they did in orbit, and what they did on the journey back to Earth. And now for the second bit of history. India became the 6th country to demonstrate nuclear weapons capabilities when they tested their first nuclear device on May 18, 1974. Depending on who you talk to about this test, it has been referred to as either Operation Smiling Buddha or Operation Happy Krishna. Since the first use of nuclear weapons at the end of World War II, there have been over 2,000 nuclear tests carried out by various countries. As part of agreements like the Partial Test Ban Treaty, there have been space-based detectors like the Vela series of satellites for the past half-century. Part of making sure signatories to the Partial Test Ban Treaty complied with the agreement meant that the United States government needed a way to monitor the planet for the telltale signs of nuclear testing. The satellites for Project Vela were developed by the Los Alamos Scientific Laboratory, and that was funded by the Advanced Research Projects Agency. The Vela series of satellites monitored the entire planet for tests like the Smiling Buddha, and I was unable to confirm if the satellites that were part of Project Vela were able to detect the Smiling Buddha test, but it stands to reason that these satellites would have gathered readings on that test since they were in operation at the same time. At the beginning of July, I'm going to explore how the Project Vela satellites detected the first proof that gamma ray bursts, which are extremely violent celestial events, exist. Tomorrow I'm going to be talking more about the Apollo 10 mission, and also the first planetary flyby that was conducted in 1961. If anyone knows the answer, message me at John Molnix on Twitter, DM me on Insta at the same username, or share the answer on the Facebook page for The Space Shot. Thanks for checking out The Space Shot. It would be fantastic if you could leave a review for the show, share this video on Facebook, Insta, Twitter, or wherever you connect with your friends and family. I'm John Molnix, and I'll catch you on the flip side.